All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really pulling apart something complex, trying to strip away all the jargon, until we get to the core strategies you can actually use.
Yeah, getting down to brass tacks.
Exactly. And our topic sounds simple, but honestly, it's the absolute make or break thing for any new venture. We're talking about how you take that brilliant, maybe messy, complex vision you have and distill it down into a narrative that's compelling, that actually gets people, inspired to do something.
We're leaning today on sources that, well, they catalog a lot of failures, actually, failures of really smart people.
Right.
The core idea is it's kind of painful to admit, but every successful business, doesn't matter the industry, it really comes down to how well they communicate their idea.
Simple as that.
Seems so. We see these brilliant entrepreneurs, world-changing tech, maybe, but they fail because they just can't articulate the vision, can't tell the story.
Well, average ideas.
While, frankly, average ideas can just take off, succeed wildly, because the storytelling, the pitching, was just that much better.
Okay, so that's the heart of it right there. It's not really about the amazing product you might build in, say, 2 years.
Not initially, no.
It's about the quality of the story you're telling right now,
Okay.
today, to get the resources, the team, whatever you need to actually build that product.
Precisely.
So our mission for this deep dive, for you listening, is to maybe rewire how you think about pitching. It's not just that formal presentation for investors.
Right, it's not just the Shark Tank moment.
No. Pitching is fundamental. It underlies everything that comes next, from getting your first co-founder on board to landing that very first customer. Okay, let's unpack this a bit.
Let's do it.
So when most people hear pitch, what comes to mind? Like a massive 60-page business plan, right? Or maybe a super detailed slide deck explaining every little feature.
Yeah, the deep dive into the tech specs.
And that, according to what we've looked at, that's the fundamental mistake. That kills your momentum right out of the gate.
Because pitching isn't about explaining every single feature or the nitty-gritty technical details.
It's laser focused, right, on communicating the core value, the one big thing you're creating.
And crucially, making the audience understand why. Why their life or why the market is going to change because of this thing you're building.
So, technically speaking, what is it?
Well, the standard definition, the elevator pitch, it's basically that super concise targeted story, usually like 2 minutes or less.
Okay.
And it has to be compelling, obviously clear, and really designed just to get someone to take a specific action.
Like what?
Could be anything, really.
Yeah.
Signing up for your beta test, writing a check, maybe even quitting their job to come join your crazy startup idea.
Okay, but here's the fascinating part for me. That definition, it means you're pitching constantly, like all the time.
From the second you have the idea, yeah. You're pitching. First to your friends, maybe your family, hoping for support, maybe some early cash.
Then potential teammates you desperately need.
Absolutely. And then, eventually, customers, investors, the list goes on.
So mastering this early, that gives you a huge advantage.
Oh, a massive edge. The entrepreneurs who get good at this early on, who can smoothly switch from explaining the tech stuff to explaining like the human benefit, the pain relief.
They're the ones who move forward.
They really are. If you're stuck down in the weeds of your own technical brilliance and you can't actually articulate the why, the need, well, your idea just stays an idea, a concept in a notebook.
But let me push back a little.
Yeah.
As the creator, the inventor, isn't there a risk, of dumbing it down too much? If you have this brilliant technology, shouldn't you share that complexity?
That's the classic paradox, isn't it? But the answer usually is no. You're not really dumbing it down. You're prioritizing action.
Okay.
Think about it. Jargon, too much complexity. What does that do? It introduces delay. It creates doubt, mental friction. The person listening has to work too hard.
Right, they tune out.
Exactly. Your goal in those first couple of minutes isn't to teach them Computer Science 101. It's just to get them nodding their head, thinking, yeah, okay, I get that problem, and wow, I need that solution.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if we accept it's constant, it's focused on core value, we need some kind of structure, right? Something that works, whether you're talking to your mom or a VC.
Yeah, and the best pitches, the ones that really inspire action, they seem to follow this, let's call it a golden structure. 3 key parts.
Okay, what are they?
First, you've got to identify a real problem, something tangible, something the audience can actually relate to. If they don't feel the problem, they won't care about your solution.
Makes sense. Number 2.
Second, present a clear, ideally elegant solution. Here's how we fix that problem.
And third,
And third, you have to explain powerfully why now is the right time. Why this specific solution? Why is it viable and necessary today?
Let's pause on that third one, the why now. Because that feels like the part people usually gloss over. Everyone gets excited about the problem and their cool product. But why is timing so critical?
Timing is, well, it's often this unspoken convergence, right, of maybe three things. First is the tech ready. Has cloud storage gotten cheap enough or mobile networks fast enough, that sort of thing.
Okay, technological readiness.
Second, has the market or regulation shifted? Is there a new law, maybe? Or are the old players just failing, dropping the ball?
Market opportunity.
And third, crucially, social or consumer acceptance. Are people actually ready for this? Are they finally okay with getting in a stranger's car or, renting out a room in their house to someone?
Ah, okay.
Your solution might have been technically possible 5 years ago, but if those factors hadn't lined up, it was just too early. Pitching the timing shows you understand the market, not just the tech.
And this is where it gets really interesting because we see this exact structure in those early Dropbox pitches. You mentioned Drew Houston earlier.
Yeah.
When he first pitched Dropbox, he completely sidestepped the technical stuff, right? No talk about file compression, distributed systems.
None of that.
Mm.
He focused almost entirely on the problem, on the pain.
Selling pain relief, basically.
He was. He told that story, and I'm paraphrasing a bit from the sources here, but about the sheer frustration, emailing files to yourself, carrying 5 different USB sticks,
Oh, God, I remember that.
or that horrible sinking feeling when your laptop just dies and you realize that big presentation you worked on all night is just gone.
Instantly relatable. I mean, I remember 2008 trying to manage files across like 3 different computers. It was a daily friction point.
Exactly. So by hitting that deep, relatable pain point, Houston wasn't selling tech. He was selling the elimination of an everyday annoyance.
The grand vision could wait.
You could wait. The immediate feeling of, wow, this will make my life easier. That was the hook.
So the lesson there is the pitch really starts with empathy.
It has to. If your audience immediately connects with the problem because they've lived it, they're already halfway to accepting your solution, even if the tech behind it is super complex.
Okay, and connecting this back to just the reality of starting something. You're constantly selling, aren't you? Or maybe negotiating is a better word.
Always. You're selling a future that doesn't exist yet to investors who are naturally skeptical.
You're selling a vision to potential co-founders, trying to convince them to leave a safe job.
Right. And you're even selling early customers on using a product that, let's be honest, is probably buggy. A minimum viable product.
Yeah.
It's this endless narrative-based negotiation.
Which means, okay, your core idea, the what of your business, that stays the same. But the angle, the emphasis, that has to change depending on who you're talking to.
Oh, dramatically. It can't be one size fits all. That just doesn't work.
But doesn't it get, well, exhausting? Trying to keep track of 3 or 4 different versions of your story, doesn't the main message get diluted?
It's another paradox of pitching, I guess. The core solution, the what, stays solid.
Yeah.
But the narrative frame around it has to be fluid, flexible.
So give me examples. How does it change?
All right, say you're talking to engineers, potential hires maybe?
Mm-hmm.
You got to focus the pitch differently.
How?
Focus on the technical challenge, the cool problem they get to solve, building something scalable, tackling latency issues, working on something totally new, a greenfield project. You use words like architecture, resilience, scale.
Got it. But then I walk out of that meeting and talk to a potential customer.
Complete pivot, all that jargon, gone. Now you focus entirely on their life, save time, less friction, maybe cost savings, just better quality of life.
So this saves you 3 hours a week, or?
Or this stops you from losing sales.
Yeah.
It's all about their direct benefit.
Okay, and then the big one, the investors. High stakes room.
That conversation is almost entirely about external validation and scale.
Yeah.
Totally different lens.
So you're talking.
You're emphasizing the TAM, total addressable market. How big is this opportunity? You're talking about your IP, your defensibility, your unique competitive advantages. And of course, the potential financial return, the ROI.
Wow, okay.
And what's fascinating, really, is that this need to synthesize, to adapt, it never stops.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just memorizing 3 scripts. You're practicing being fluid, reading the room.
It makes sense when you see how today's giants started. You look at their earliest, simplest pitches, like Airbnb.
Right. Brian Chesky, Joe Gebbia.
Yeah.
They weren't starting with massive spreadsheets and market projections.
No, they started with something painfully simple, an observation.
Yeah, basically hitting 2 problems at once. For the traveler, Price is a big deal when you book travel online.
Mm.
Pretty obvious. And for the host, uh-oh, I need to pay my rent this month.
And then they showed the pictures, right, of the air mattresses on their floor.
That simple visual, almost comical, but powerful. It tied the solution directly to this dual problem saving money, making money that everyone could immediately grasp.
They weren't pitching global hospitality disruption.
Not yet. They were pitching, here's a way for hosts to make some cash and travelers get affordable, maybe more authentic, places to stay. The huge scale came later, built on that relatable starting point.
And Facebook's original pitch is maybe even more specific.
Oh yeah, another great lesson in specificity. Zuckerberg wasn't talking about connecting the planet initially.
No. What was it?
It was super focused, hyper-local even, basically. Hey, Harvard students can't easily see who's who because the directories aren't online. So we built a digital version. You can see photos, connect names to faces within Harvard.
That is so narrow compared to Facebook today.
And that was the genius. Solve one specific, easily understood problem for one specific, defined group first.
Prove it works there.
Exactly. Prove the value in that small pond. It's easier to build, easier to test, easier to explain. The grand vision connecting the world, that comes much, much later.
Okay, so boiling this down for you listening, the central takeaway seems to be start with a problem people get. Immediately. Understand. Relate to.
Yeah. If your listener spends the first 5 minutes just trying to figure out what problem you're even talking about or how it applies to them, you've already lost.
You have to speak their language, not just your own internal tech speak or business jargon.
Absolutely.
And this pitching thing, it's a journey, right? It evolves.
Definitely. Your pitching journey follows a pretty predictable path, usually with escalating stakes. You start small.
Low stakes, like classroom presentations, maybe just chatting with friends, local pitch competitions.
And those are critical. You have to use those low-pressure moments. Experiment. Try different angles, different stories. See what language actually lands, what makes people lean in.
This is where you iterate the narrative, right? Without risking millions.
Exactly. It's your safe sandbox.
Yeah.
Then you move up a level, mid-stakes.
Yeah.
Like that coffee meeting with someone you really want as a co-founder. Or a networking event where you might meet a key mentor. Maybe early talks with sophisticated customers.
Getting more serious.
A bit more serious. And then finally, you get to the high-stakes environments. The formal conference rooms, big investors across the table.
But the amazing thing is, even as the pressure ramps up, the core stuff we talked about, that stays the same.
The fundamentals hold true. Clear problem, compelling solution. A credible plan for how you'll actually pull it off. Those remain constant.
The depth might change. The jargon shifts.
But the bones of the story have to be solid. Rock solid. And hopefully proven by then.
Okay, let's wrap this up with something really practical. An action item drawn from the sources that plays on this idea of synthesizing and adapting the message.
Yeah, since we talked about shifting the emphasis for different audiences, investors versus customers versus engineers, let's use AI to practice that.
Okay, how?
This is actually a great way to quickly develop your narrative options. Go to ChatGPT or whatever tool you like. Ask it to generate, say, 5 different elevator pitch variations for your one business idea.
But not just randomly.
No, here's the key. Give it specific constraints. Tell who the pitch is for.
So don't just say, give me 5 pitches. Ask it, prompt 1, write me an elevator pitch for my business, but really emphasize the cool tech advantage and how hard the engineering problem is that we're solving. The target audience is a potential CTO.
Right, and then immediately follow up with prompt 2. Okay, now write an elevator pitch for the same business, but this time focus only on the user's frustration right now, the emotional pain point, and how much time we save them. Target is an early adopter customer.
Okay, I see where you're going, and maybe a third one. Prompt 3. Now give me the investor version for the same business. Emphasize the total addressable market, the TAM, and what makes us defensible, our competitive moat. Target is a venture capitalist.
Doing that forces you instantly to see your own idea through these different critical lenses. It shows you how a good story can have different hooks, different openings, but still serve the same core purpose. It's practice without the pressure.
And connecting this all back, zooming out, this ability, this skill of distilling your complex idea into a narrative that actually makes people want to act.
It's the gatekeepers, really. It's what separates an idea that gets off the ground, that launches, from one that just kind of stays in your head or in your notebook. It's the difference maker.
So, final thought for you to chew on. What does this mean for you right now? Think about the elements we discussed. That relatable, emotional pain point. the Dropbox approach, versus the big market opportunity, the investor angle.
Which one do you naturally gravitate towards when you talk about your idea?
Yeah, which one are you more comfortable with? And more importantly, which one do you need to practice more to get that balance right?
Because the challenge always is speaking the language of your audience, never just your own.
Get pitching.